Let me cover this quickly. For our team, we are hoping to work in dynamic mapping component. The idea is where we have like different fields from different databases. So um, we are giving a capability for the user to map them field by field, and give an output on whatever you would be using that mapping output to kind of populate the target from the source. Um, we're hoping to make it agnostic as much as we can, and hopefully this is something that could be used by different databases technology. Um, and so with my topic in dev tip, I'll be covering like how do we navigate through the dynamic data in OutSystems. There are several use cases that you will need um, this strategy, particularly nowadays, like with the requirements that we do have, not just in low code but in programming in general. We're not just working with the SQL. We're working with broader structure. Schemaless is one of them, and just like what Team Tree presented, with complex requirements such as that, um, JSON or other format is needed, not just a tabular structure. So with dynamic data, I'll be covering is some strategies where we'll be able to work with JSON, um, and the different tools that's available in OutSystems, and the possible use cases where you'll be able to make use of this tooling. So the typical use cases is something that I mentioned about NoSQL. Things like MongoDB when you're integrating with that, or the other NoSQL technologies in there. I came across with this scenario when I integrated with Elasticsearch. So we all know Elasticsearch is a document-based storage, and it just provides a different way of thinking when you work with relational database. OutSystems have that relational database, so switching my head to a NoSQL, there are differences in that. So I'll be sharing what are different things that I had implemented for me to navigate that complex path. Um, so the other stuff that you might came across this is like CMS. I think the Team 3 is trying to achieve something similar to this, where you kind of work on a structure that can evolve based on the user inputs. So thinking about CMS, you cannot control whatever content content the user will be placing in. It could be something that the layout would be just a simple flatten out centered base placeholder. It could be a three column layout. So things like that. If you would think about the data structure in terms of a relational database, that's quite challenging and hard to evolve. So the other use case that you will be able to make use of this strategy is when you're working with ETL. While OutSystems is not just the tool for doing this, OutSystems can also work with such ETL. So there are timers, there are BPTs, and mashing up the data on different data sources. This this kind of tool set that I'll be presenting could be used. So I'll focus on something that's given. Um, we do have access to SQL capabilities in OutSystems using the advanced widget. There's something available in Forge. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this, Ardo.json. It's a way for you to navigate through the nodes of JSON in the server. In JavaScript, I haven't found a Forge component on this, but it's very simple to pick up the JSON path from GitHub and place it in a page or on your module and be able to make use of the capability of it. Um, so with OpenJSON, I'll start with this native capability of SQL. Um, Imagine that you do have an external data, and you let's say you um, pull it from a REST API, and it's such a data that you want to join with your internal entity. How would you think about that? You could do a loop within OutSystems for you to fill in the different attributes. That's one. But if you're talking about thousands of records, that's like thousands of iterations. So SQL are good with data sets. They already have the capability to think about an efficient algorithm for you to mash up those data. So in here in this presentation, I'll be sharing you guys how I was able to achieve a JSON being joined to an internal entity by using OpenJSON. So I got in here the JSON. The scenario that I do have is, let's say you got a compensation system where you're pulling the salary of the employee, plus you got an internal table within OutSystems for all the list of employees. So you got external IDs in here from the compensation system, and marrying that with what you have in OutSystems, where you got like external ID. And so if we are able to join with that, then we are able to intersect the table without doing a loop. And how does the code looks like for that is something like this. So we're passing in a JSON within within the SQL. I hope you guys are seeing this, but oh, looks like a bug in there, but it should zoom. But what I'm doing is like there's this open JSON. Not sure if you guys are seeing this or it's just me. Do you guys see the SQL pop up?
Yeah, we're seeing the SQL pop up and it's zooming in, but just
a part of it.
Yeah,
That's odd. Looks like a beta issue, but I open it up. Hopefully this is clearer. But so what I'm doing there is parsing the JSON from that input parameter and basically joining through a temporary table with the internal table within OutSystems. So if you think about this, there are broad use cases that you could already implement. Things like searching, paging. One of the challenges that we do have is an or statement between the external table and the internal entity. How you would create that logic. The way we handle that is through this, but bear in mind, of course, that there's a limitation to this kind of strategy. If you're talking about millions of record, think about synchronization. But if you want like live data for thousands of record, this could be a use case that you might want to explore as well. Um, so that's this. The other thing is the JSON path, which is a way for JavaScript to navigate through the node in the client side. So think about it's just querying. You're just querying for a JSON using the browser's resources, browser CPU, the memory within the browser. So if you want to make use of that, you could have this component in here. So this is a sample JSON. You can basically query using the JSON path, and it would return like the result set based on that query. And I got here that example. If I did hit query, it's already in there, but you can see it's filtering out whatever the JSON that I have um, in the input parameter. So what I just did in there is basically having that screen, query on click, calling the JavaScript, which is using the JSON path. And the JSON path was placed within the scripts. That just came straight from GitHub and place it in there. So the last tool is similar to this. It's just if you want on the server side, if you want to navigate and query in the server side. And this are some technical tools, so bear with me here. This might make sense if you guys would see our product. But hopefully this tips could be used in some other things that you're doing, may it be on the server, may it be on the client or on the database. And hoping to talk with Team 5 soon. Thanks everyone.